Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is another episode, and I'm excited to bring y'all what I feel like is a very great artist and someone I feel like deserves a lot of recognition, and that is Molly McCutcheon. How are you doing, Molly?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I have seen you pop up on my Twitter feed. I don't know how often here recently, but it's been a lot. You and a couple other artists, but you specifically. And whenever I saw you pop up, I'm like, damn. For one, had no clue who you were at the time, what you did, and then I started diving into a little bit of your work, and I was like, oh shit, she is super talented. And like I told you before we started recording, you're one of the few, if only, that I've ever seen be a athlete artist. So that was interesting. So I started diving in, and I was like, you know what? I have to get her on the podcast. I have to learn more about her story and I'm excited. So, first of all, I just want to jump in and ask you, when did you first get started as an artist?
Yeah, I've been an artist my whole life. Like I think to know exactly when to call yourself an artist is such a tricky question. I think every artist is kind of like it just happens eventually. I don't Some people might consider it when you start selling your art, but I've been drawing in a very meticulous way since I was really, really young. And it's the first thing that like my teachers at my in my kindergarten were like catching on to, and I was put in an early special arts class from a young age, and um I did a lot of art and music up until eighth grade, and then then it became sports, and then I graduated a little bit over a year ago, and art has just like completely taken back over, like no questions asked, and so I didn't see it coming at all. But I've always been an artist, I've always been doing art. Even when I was playing, it was like my in my room by myself therapy. Like just in the past like 4 months has it brought income that has like really changed my perspective on it and made it seem like this is something that's going to be a career.
Well, I can't lie to you. I was looking at your super rare, and you've made some very amazing sales. I actually see Toby Lasso as one of the owners. Big shout out to Toby. He was on the podcast. Um, but your your artwork is very very different in the sense of I'm a big fan of your piece, The First Light Wave. And I encourage anyone listening to this, if you're not aware of Molly's work, I always link the people whenever I drop episodes. So I'm definitely going to, add her. Go check out her work. I'll put her super rare in there as well. Definitely go check out the three pieces that I'm looking at. But The First Light Wave is one of my favorite. And I just want to ask, like, where did you get this style? Is this like an experiment? Is this like what you gravitated towards? Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, it's tough to say like whether this is a style or not. I think my art, especially like when I really got deep into it after college and not knowing that a sale like that was going to come from it, it was all just experimentation. It was all just like purely because that's what I needed to do at that point in my life, and I needed to indulge myself in some experimenting. Um, and honestly, what you see in that specific piece, and there's so many reasons why I'm so grateful and happy that was my Genesis piece, and then I went to Toby, and um, you see like this shape, you see a figure, and I actually like discovered that figure just from like signaturing my pieces. If you look at like the signature that's actually on all of my pieces in the corner, it's always in a different corner. Three hums M with a dot. And originally, like, I was just doing that because like I have a first and last name that starts with the M. And so I'm like, I need something that's quick and easy. Uh, I just did that one day, and then I was like, wait, I really like this. And then I'm like a big stickler on just like discovery, and so I kind of discovered that like the longer I looked at that 2D shape that is my signature, that this could stand for so many things, especially like just even like scientifically, and in my head, in my creative imagination, I guess. And so I started experimenting, drawing it in a 3D form, like and that's what that piece is. And a lot of people look at it and just see this figure. They don't think, oh, it's like her signature, and like that's like But I did that because it literally looks like a light wave. And then I think that the sphere that represents the dot that comes after the three-humped M can stand for so much. It can stand for like the source that is like driving the light wave. Like it can stand for creativity. It can stand for willpower, and that's ultimately why I named it the first light wave. That piece, there's a lot of like line work and symmetry and geometry that I tried to incorporate when I was creating it. And when I first created it, I didn't really know what to think of it. I knew that I felt something, and this has happened with a couple of my pieces, like the longer they've just existed and the more that I've been able to look at them and share them with people and feel them out, the greater I've realized the creation process was when I was actually making it. And that piece in particular is definitely one that I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, man, I love that piece so much. I'm so happy Toby has it. And I'll actually be hanging the physical in his London gallery here soon. So I'm excited about that.
Damn. Okay. Well, I love that. I say this so many times. Anytime a guest comes on here and they answer the questions with substance, I start fucking jumping up and down with excitement, because I can just tell that you really care about the piece. And I'm not gonna lie to you. Whenever I first saw the piece, I kind of just was looking at it for what it was. I was like, okay, I'm feeling like this architecture, like kind of like feel to it. And then the moment you pointed it out, I was looking over at the source and I saw your signature, and I was like, hold on. And then you were like, yeah, so it's like and then now that I see it as the three-humped M with it's like a whole new image to me. And that's what's really fun about the podcast, and that's what's really fun about bringing people on here and being able to speak about their artwork. Because if I would have never listened into something that you were on, like a Spaces or another podcast, or if I would have never looked in deeper, I would have never known what the hell the deeper meaning of this picture was. And now that I do know more about it, I am actually way more drawn into it. That's one hell of a Genesis piece. So big props to you. I did want to ask, when did you start? And you said you recently graduated, I believe, what you said last year or something like that. So congratulations to you on that. But when did you jump into NFTs, or when did you find out about NFTs, since you've always been an artist?
Yeah. Well, I graduated December 2021. And I graduated early. I was supposed to graduate the spring after. But I graduated early because like my sports stuff came to an end rather suddenly, And so honestly, like immediately after that is when I found myself with this nuance of free time that I'd never had, like that much free time in my life. Like, oh my God, it was honestly a shock to my system. But since it was a shock to my system, it made me do all this art. So I'm doing all this art, and I'm also just like, I'm in this position where I didn't have any debt from college due to basketball, and that's been such a key thing in my life. Like, so grateful for that. Because it allowed me to just like really just explore, like just figure out stuff on my own and not have to worry about too much. And I was doing a lot of like tech work, like freelance. I was doing so much freelance, man. Like I was just like hustling in Atlanta, like finding business owners and finding out what I can do for them. And, through that, I became more acquainted with like social media networking, social media marketing. I was doing like social media marketing for a couple different Web2 companies, like an athletic agency and stuff. And honestly, I just like discovered a Twitter space one day. I think it was right after like NBA Top Shot really started popping off. And I was like, what is this? It was interesting. Like obviously there was money to be made, and that I was like, how are people making money off this? And then what really drew me in was the fact that some artists that I had been following like throughout college on Twitter, that I just genuinely loved their work, I was just following them, I saw them like mentioning NFTs as well. And so in my head, I'm like putting two and two together, like how is NBA Top Shot an NFT, and how are these artists like selling NFT, like what is this? So I spent like 2 months really just researching and really just like trying to be careful. And I just kind of fell into this crowd. I think like the very first person I connected with was Keith Berry, and he's a former like professional athlete. And, he saw that I was an athlete, so he reached out to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is somebody that I know I can trust. And it was like a week after that was NFT NYC of last year. And I went, and I was like at 3 rooftop parties that were like, I was meeting some really great people. I was meeting not so much artists, but I was just meeting people that I was like, dang, like how, like how am I here right now? And so after that, I really started to just like ask myself the questions of like, what can I truly get out of this space that I know is like going to be good for my life? And throughout that whole time I'm doing my art, I'm not sharing it on social media. So I basically like devised a plan after that to build a community first, and then get comfortable with that community to share my artwork with them. And when I say build a community, I literally mean just like friends, like people that I get along with on Twitter. And like what that looks like was Twitter spaces twice a week, late at night, talking about psychedelics, talking about sports. And it just generated this really authentic like vibe, and then I just slowly started posting more and more work. And then I didn't have any thought in my mind to sell it though, because I knew that like this work is something very special to me. So maybe it was around like that was all starting in June of last year. And then I think starting in like October, I had a super rare curator like come into one of my spaces I was hosting. And then he like slid in my DMs and was like, we're getting on a call like right now. And I was like, what is super rare? I'm like, do I even want to hop on a call with this guy? And so I literally like got on a phone call with him, and I turned him down. I was like, nah. I was like, I just need to like figure, like I need to ask some more people that I trust, like what this is. And then I found out what it was. And then I was like, okay, this is something that is calling me. Like I need to not turn this down. And then I sold my first piece in December. I didn't even, it was one of those things where I didn't announce that I was onboarded to Super Rare for a month and a half, I think, because, there's only so much that you want to share all at once on Twitter, I guess. And I just wanted to feel really grounded. So that happened. And then then after I sold my first piece and the way that it went down and what I realized art like really meant to me and meant in the world after that, it was like, this is like what I'm supposed to do type of thing. And so now it's just been like, we're just going with it, man. We're just pushing forward.
Hell yeah. I mean, yo, it sounded like you got in. eh, Let me just start it off here. The Top Shot era for me was fucking wild. Um, yeah, as someone who really loves sports and grew up around basketball, I thought Top Shot was gonna make me the first trillionaire. I really believed in it, and it let me down. But it's all good because I kind of did what you said. I ended up networking and using that, and really built a community, and then built the podcast, and the rest is history. But
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear that you jumped. I don't want to say you jumped in quick, but the speed in which when you did get in, you kind of exploded. You kind of just like took off. You had that piece, you had the super rare, you had the sale. You only have three pieces out now, which is still an amazing accomplishment looking at the prices that you've sold. So you've been doing great. That's beautiful to see. I want to ask though, what do you have planned for 2023? Because obviously, what I really like about you is, I mean, there's multiple things, but what I really like about you as an artist is the fact that this isn't like a profile picture, like whole thing going on here. Like it's genuine art. People hate when I say genuine art, but I feel like, I mean, I look at this and I'm like, damn, this is some stuff I would want hanging around. This is some stuff I would want to go see. Um, I mean, damn, Molly, I'm getting stuck over here. My fault. Let's see. Just walk me through being an artist now and what you're going to do in 2023. Like, are you going to drop randomly? Are you going to have scheduled drops? Are you going to be with other people? What can we expect from you?
Hmm. That's a tough question because one thing I've learned in this space is like, at least to my path that I've made so far, is that it's great for me to have a near future plan, as in like a 3 month plan, 6 month plan, and then I'm always keeping in mind like it's always about it's all those plans always have to do with the bigger vision that is like when I'm an 80-year-old woman looking back on my life, or when I'm dead and my art is outliving me. And because of that, what I've learned is that who I connect with really decides some of those moves that I make. I always like my near future plan right now is to just connect with the right people and sell my work to the right people. I mean, as you can see, like I have 3 pieces that I've sold so far, and they've all been basically private transactions. They've all basically like the sale has taken place offline before it ever hit Super Rare, before it ever hit Twitter. Like I haven't marketed it like that because of multiple things, but mainly because that's how important my art is to me. It's how important I understand even the business side of art that does exist. I mean, I just recently listened to a lot of like Jake Fried interviews. He's been popping off recently, and he even talks about it too. Like you've got to understand the business side of this, like especially like since we're working in this new creator economy that it's really like you're out here for yourself. Like, so sorry.
You're good.
I yeah, I've been making sure that my collectors are not just collectors but connectors, and that has done wonders for me already. It has. Like the 3 people I've sold my work to have done so many wonders for me already. And as far as the future goes, there is a strategy side to building up your one of one price. And obviously, like I value my work. I know that it's worth more than 3 ETH. I know that it's gonna just continue to rise in price. I know, because at the end of the day, like that's good for me as an artist, and it's good for my collectors who I care about. And there's a way, I'll just say this, there's a way that I already kind of have devised where I'm going to be able to go about it the same way, same values, almost kind of like same strategy as far as like most of the sales will probably take place offline, and growing my collector base that gives people an opportunity to get in at a lower price. I don't want to give too much away because it's such a work in progress, but as far as editions, as far as that goes, because that's a huge thing right now, and just overall as an artist career, grows. I don't know if I'll ever do an edition that's like a copy. I think every single piece of art I might sell might be a one of one. I can't say for sure, but I feel like in my soul, I feel like that, because that just makes it valuable, and it also just keeps it real to me. I kind of like it when people are like, "Oh, I'm the only person that owns this." It's different. It hits different, and but then again, I can't say like that. That's definitely for 2023. I do have some plans in place, and I'm really excited about it. And if you have me on this podcast again in like 3 months, like we can go in on it, honestly. But yeah, that's my plan right now, is to just continue to connect with the right people, because there's some great collectors that I want to own my work that can't afford 5 ETH and can't afford 6 ETH and so on and so forth. And it's like, how do I still like keep these people in my circle? And of course, like they can always just support me, and that's great. I love that. But also, like, it's cool to own art. It's cool to collect art. And yeah, other than that, I'm still making my one of one. Like, I'm still making my big pieces. I've got some like right here on my kitchen counter. These. Like these are like 11 by 14, and those are the ones that are going to be like my bigger sales. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds, man. I have so much work that there's like pieces that I've created even like 2 months ago that I just feel like I might not sell these pieces for a year. I might not sell them for 3 years. But I have a feeling that they will go for a lot, just because there's something about the energy that, like I was saying earlier, as you look at something more and you acquaint yourself with a piece of work more and more, the energy starts to like reveal itself more and more. And yeah, that's who really knows, man. It. But
I'm loving it, Molly, because you're very confident in your work, and I feel like that's what's needed. You can't just be like, well, maybe if anybody likes it, I guess they can. Nah, I mean, I love the confidence, and you know what it's worth. You know what to value yourself. And there's a couple things to speak on. So, for one, like I said, you're very aware. You're very aware of the networking that needs to be done. I have seen you in a lot of spaces on Twitter since I've been following you. So you're constantly trying to be active, even if you're not constantly posting one of ones for sale on Super Rare. You're still there, showing up in the space, like getting with it, talking to art. So that's something that I definitely respect. And it's very funny that you mentioned a crazy name, which is probably one of my favorite episodes on this podcast, and that's the amazing Jake Fried. Jake is an amazing friend, amazing artist, and I still will die on the hill that he's Mount Rushmore in this space. Like, he's definitely top 4 in this space, and he's not 4 or 3, or kind of not 2 neither. So it's a little rough. I'm a big Jake Fried fan. Shout out to him. But that makes me wonder now. Is there anyone in this space that you have seen and you're like, oh damn, I really like them? Anyone you look up to, or anyone you were like, fuck, I'm really inspired by their work?
Well, yeah, of course, Jake. Another, and when it comes to inspiration, it's not just by their artwork or their medium that they use. Like I'm a physical artist. And I think one reason why I do relate to Jake is that he also does his work physically, and then the final finished product that he's selling is like this time lapse of, it becomes digital in that sense. And I'm doing a similar thing with my works. And so there's that connection with him and his work. But another artist that I think, just as far as like everything he does, is Joe Peace. And yeah, man, like his work, like, there's very few artists, and I would say Jake and Joe are definitely like these two type of artists where when you remember when you see their work for the first time, because it's that captivating. And maybe it's because it's video, maybe it's because it's something that you really have to like sit and watch and take in and let it hit you. But like, just as far as how they do everything, as far as how they do their business, as far as how they, like just create their art and carry themselves on social media, like it's inspiring to me. Yeah, Joe's work, man, his work is like, if you could like see what imagination looks like, taking form, like that's kind of like how I view Joe's work, because it's just amazing.
Joe is different.
Yeah, but yeah, Joe and Jake are just, I mean, especially recently, I don't know, I've just been seeing their work and I like go back and look at it and I'm like, yeah. But there's so many amazing artists, man. Like even my friends that I do, have that more of that connection with, that I can talk to every day if I want to. Those people inspire me too, because they're just hustling. And, like people like Joe, who is like, he seems very like, distant as far as like, I can't just like have a conversation with him type of thing. They inspire me in that type of way, but my friends that I'm able to talk to every day, yeah, I get to like really see them grind every single day. And that's why I think it's so important as an artist in this space to really have like your own like inner circle, and even to have your own community, like, and to be active in that community. Like I know you mentioned like, yeah, you see me on Twitter Spaces. And that's because like there's a level of value that you can add just from something like Twitter Spaces. Some people take advantage of it and some people don't. And they just kind of like, chill on Twitter Spaces all day. But I think, especially recently, I've just realized like, it's really important that you're adding value wherever you're spending time, because you can't get time back. And just you can do that in any type of way. You can do that in group chats. You can do that in Twitter Spaces. You can do that with your tweets. And that's one thing I'm focused on, because I'm not like a anonymous character on the internet or on my Twitter page. I'm like this real person, and you can look me up on the internet. And I want people to know that like I'm, like you can talk to me type of thing. And my artwork is just an extension of myself, so. And I think as well, like it's cool to connect with artists and get to like have conversations with them, even easier than it might be to have with other artists, because it gives like a different level to their art, so yeah, man. Yeah, the original question was who inspires me. Definitely right now, like Joe and Jake are just killing it. I think it's because of AOTM and the movement that they've brought along for many artists, but especially for them. So much respect for those guys and all the artists that they have on their roster right now. It's really inspiring.
Yeah, no, it really is. Like I said, Jake, great friend, amazing artist. Joe Pease. It's not very often that I say that I'm going to get people on here, but I don't even want to promise, but Joe Pease is definitely someone that y'all should see on this podcast before the end of the year. He's just different, and a big shout out to him for his recent sale. I think it was 120 ETH to the founder of AOTM or whatever or something like that. But huge sale. Joe is phenomenal, and like you said, it's like being inside of a dream seeing his work. But Molly, I know we don't have crazy amount of time already. We're 30 minutes into it. I feel like we could go on for hours and hours. You're an amazing guest. But I want to jump over to the 5 questions that we have. So every podcast episode, we do 5 questions, same ones to every guest, see what answers we can get. Before jumping over to the 5 questions, is there anything that you want to say to the listeners in case I didn't ask you a specific question?
I feel like the conversation we've had so far has been great. I think we've hit some great pillars in the conversation so far. So I don't really have much to say other than I just appreciate this. I appreciate any conversation I can have, an opportunity to talk about my art more. Yeah, but I'm down to get into it.
Let's fucking go then. So to start it off with number 1, it's kind of similar to a question we had earlier, but this one is just, and all these questions are, you can answer them like a personal or NFT related, however you want to go about them. But what is your goal in 2023?
My goal in 2023 is to maintain communication and connection down the path that I see myself heading already. And I think that stems from the connections I've already made, and also the connections that I can like foresee. And then the connections I don't even know are going to come, but they're just going to come, like whether it's from an IRL event, whether it's from simply just Twitter. Yeah, my goal is to do that and cement something so sound that I know at that point my sales will just take care of themselves because they're going to be going to the right people at the right time. It'd be great if I see a real wave come through my art sales this year that are able to like kind of like take me to another level. But the thing is I know that'll just come when it's supposed to come. So I think that this year it's about focus. It's about staying focused, like remaining grounded, and just persisting, making the best work that I can fucking make. Like, and I feel it. Like there's there's creative blocks. Like they do happen, but I just feel so much creative energy. I feel really tapped into what gives me that energy, and just to keep making those discoveries along the way, because it's really all about like being in the moment and being able to like make those decisions, like be on my toes. So that's going to come with travel, and it's going to come with like just jumping when the opportunity is like handed to me. And I think that it will like reveal itself in some nicer sales sometime this year, but I can't say when. It just kind of happens. So remaining focused and just persisting, always creating the best work that I can.
Hell yeah, dude! I'm loving these answers just because of the fact that I don't think I could ever answer anything with like so much substance and being able to actually give someone 2-3 minutes of an answer. I'm a horrible guest. I guess I'm only good at hosting people. 2 would be Molly. This one might be a wild one to hit you with. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh man. I want to live in so many places. I just want to travel, but like jeez. I'm gonna have to think about that one. Like probably somewhere tropical, probably an island. Except I know that like I've got to be places where I can go, like America is great for that because there's a bunch of cities here where these events are happening and where I know that the opportunities are existing. But I do feel like I'll get to a point where I've made most of the solid connections I needed to make, and then I can like live somewhere tropical where I don't have to like get to the nearest, X, Y, and Z. I can just chill, have my internet connection, and do all my business there, and just create art somewhere tropical. Like I don't know. I don't really know because I just gotta visit those places. Maybe like the Bahamas or something, man.
The Bahamas.
But not a city, not a city. I think like at some point in my life, I want to live in New York City, but only when I have the means to make it the best experience possible. Because New York is amazing, man. New York is so amazing. Like, when you know how to make it amazing for yourself, it's pretty good.
Nah, man. With all due respect, shout out to all my homies in New York. Fuck them. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck New York. I do not vibe with New York. I went the first time, got COVID. Went the second time. I've been fighting a chronic illness for the last 9 months. So me in New York, we beefing like we. So that sucks. So no, I got mad love for New York. A lot of history there. Me personally, being from Kentucky, being here in Kentucky, I could never leave and go to somewhere like that. That's just like so congested. It just feels like too much. I've been to LA. I've been to Miami. I would have to say that LA is probably my go-to place. That or Miami. But to go to the next one, I do want to ask, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh man, my biggest pet peeve is probably when people talk about things and then don't do them. And I think that there's levels to that. Like everybody does that at some point in their life, and like everybody says like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this," and then they either can't do it or it just doesn't work out, or they have to change plans. But I think like, like especially working in an industry revolving around art and revolving around understanding hard work, it's even forced me to be really cautious of what I say. Like it's forced me because I truly believe there's like some karmic energy as far as like saying I am going to do this and then not doing it. I think that it comes back to bite you. And I mean, there's like there's a lot of that always happening. I don't want to say like in the space, but everywhere. There's a lot of that happening everywhere. And so it's a pet peeve of mine because when I notice it repetitively happening, not if it's coming from like just one person, but if it's coming from like a niche or something, it's just like, dang, man, like now I know that this probably isn't where I need to spend my energy or time. It's kind of like a turn off like that. So definitely that.
I can't lie to y'all. Whenever she said that, my eyes got real big because I was like, damn. The other day I said we were supposed to record and we didn't, and I postponed it. And I was like, now I'm being the person that she hates. I'm definitely one of her biggest pet peeves. Damn. So.
But things happen like that. It's like you can still get it done. Especially like. You can always get something done. You can always get it done, even if you gotta push it back. But, like saying like, oh, I'm gonna do this. But then like there's no, even like myself, I make sure I do not say like, I'm gonna post a piece later today, or I'm gonna finish this piece of art and send it to X, Y, and Z. Because like I know that if I don't actually do that, something within my mind is like shaming me. Like something is like something is like not right, So yeah, it's kind of like the laws of manifestation almost,
I can get behind that. I can totally get behind it. Um, I mean, my pet peeve list is extremely way too long. Sometimes I like to be petty more days than other, but it's all good. The final two are pretty easy, but the next one will be pretty fun. What do people misunderstand about you the most?
Oh wow, misunderstand. Well, I
I
mean, I
try to
think
hit people really left field with these questions,
these are
so I'm
these are
sorry.
really great. These are really great questions.
Appreciate
Um,
it.
I think honestly, most artists that are very connected to their work and are doing it consistently do art because there's something that feels misunderstood. I think everybody in the world feels misunderstood, but I think maybe with artists, maybe it's just I think like one thing I've dealt with a lot in my life is um like there's a certain level of communication that comes from like this really like just like creative um oh I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear those people outside of my apartment, but there's like something going on.
You're good. Very barely. You're good. They're fine.
um gosh, I think expressing myself maybe, I think like I think like I think that's why art exists, is because people have to find a way to express themselves and then they create the perfect way. But I think like up until that point, it's like expressing myself, whether it's just like banter or whether it's just like in the moment, like being like, I don't know, weird slash just like, I'm kind of like a hyperactive, like ADHD type of person, and my mind is always going. And I think like because of that, there's been so many times, whether it's been in college, whether it's been even with some teammates, whether it's been like a lot in high school, it was like I was always thinking like this, and like I would just be like, I'm not afraid to share certain things, and then like there would be like immediate disconnects with people because they just weren't, they were just like, huh? And so I think like that is where the misunderstanding comes from. And I've started to realize that like that is kind of like a superpower once you learn how to figure it out. But it's also just made me a lot more cautious as far as like how much do I show people in person, because the last thing I want to feel is like feeling like people will literally just be like, I don't get that. Like, like what? Like, and it's just like, whatever, man. Like, that's, that's why we call ourselves artists, like it's, yeah, I guess that would be like expressing the self, but outside of the art form, if that makes sense. I think that that's where the disconnect often happens because not a lot of people in the world pursue art as a career. Not a whole lot, you know? So,
No, art gets a horrible look. I feel like if you're not in the art realm, world, whatever you want to call it, space, it's kind of like frowned upon sometimes. Depending on what you do, what you make. Some people are just like, yeah, yeah, that's so easy. I could do that. That's the number one thing that you hear from people that don't really appreciate art is, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can easily do that, bro. That's nothing. So it is a little discouraging to some people, and it's sad to see. But but yeah, I mean, I hope we see more people jump in. And to kick off our final question, Molly, it's more of a fun one, kind of a wild one. If you won $10 million tomorrow, what in the hell would you buy?
art, I would literally invest in art. It's the best investment you can make. Like, I would buy a Joe Piece, I would buy a Jake Free, to be honest, like straight up. I would buy their shit on secondary. Like, I mean, maybe honestly, I don't think 10 million could afford their stuff on secondary, but I would most definitely invest in art because that's one of the best investments you can make, because the artists, especially when they get to a certain level, like especially when there's that certain energy, they're never going to stop. And then when their lifetime is over, it's, it's only going to increase in value, and it means something special. Like I would probably buy art. I wouldn't spend it all on art, because that's not like an immediate return on investment. That's like a way, way down the line return on investment. But I think that I would buy art, and then I would probably like buy lands. I would buy lands, and I would build like houses and have a place for my friends and have a place for myself, a studio. I want to have like an art house studio that I can have like creatives come to, and I want to build like a creative team. That's something hopefully in the works for like 2023. And then honestly, I can see myself doing something like opening a coffee shop or something. Like I can see myself doing something like that. Like, but I think as far as investment goes, it would definitely be art and lands, because you can do whatever you want with that. You can do whatever you want with land, but art is just kind of like different. Like that's what I would do with $10 million, and then everything left over is going right back into my art career. It's travel, all that.
Well, there you have it. Well, there you freaking have it. I mean, going back into art. I mean, it sounds like some pretty safe investments to me. And Molly, I can't lie to you. This has been a fun interview. I mean, we've literally went 47 minutes or something like that. I know we both have somewhere to be at 4, so we're gonna cut it. And I just want to let you know, I feel like I've learned way more about you than I could have just jumping and looking at your Twitter. And that's usually the case for 99.9% of people. You don't really get the full story until you get to start asking questions. And that's the whole point of this podcast, is to spread people's stories, learn more about the artists, learn more about what they're doing. So I just wanted to say from me to you, thank you so much for allowing us to just interview you, learn who you are, and you definitely have to come back in 3 months, because we have a lot more to talk about.
Dude, well, I appreciate it so much. And like, once again, I think the more artists that we can have sharing their stories in a great way like this, the better, because this is the best type of way to share more. Like there's only so much you can really like share on Twitter, but just a conversation like this is great, and I appreciate it. I think this was super fun. I'm looking forward to who you got coming up next, and like hopefully 3-4 months from now.
Yo, I mean, I'm excited for who I got next too, because honestly, I don't have somebody next right off the top of my hand. I'll have to look at the list of people that I have, but it's been such an honor. Please stick around for a second after we end, just so I can tell you got some things for you. And for those listening in, thank you so much. Going forward, I'm going to start advertising the new Patreon. Didn't talk about it much this episode because it's still in the works. So by next episode, we should have some more announcements on it. But I just wanted to tell everybody, thank you so much. It means the world that y'all are still listening, and hopefully we can keep bringing you good episodes. So we will see y'all next week, and peace out. Thank y'all so much.